Come on in, bestie. Welcome to Story Pod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Hello, welcome to the podcast. We have one of my favorite things to do, which is a little, what do I call it? A little story snack. You know, we're answering a little question from Reddit, and I would love to answer your question. So if you want to send me a story issue that you may be having, you can go ahead and email me at ash@creativebff.com. That email is down in the description below. Or you can go to my website and go to the contact section, which is creativebff.com. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get into this question from Reddit. So the question comes from r/fantasy writers, and the poster is Kitty Hamilton. And here's the question. Fairytale romance comic concept. Need brainstorming help. Girl, I'm here for you. Okay? I'm here for you, bestie. This is what I do. So here is the question. This story is meant to be about a king after becoming estranged from his consort, restoring their relationship by eventually proving his romantic, genuine love. This would happen through a fairy tale inspired plot. Big problem is, how do you prove you're genuinely, truly passionate in love with someone if they think you're only doing it to be a quote unquote good husband? And what sort of fairy tale through line would make sense for this? The story starts with a young prince in his prime meeting another young noble by chance. They have instant chemistry. Flash forward, they are married and in love. Everything is coming up roses. Flash forward, there's war. The prince, now a king, goes off to fight, leaving his consort behind to keep things together at home. Flash forward, the king has returned, but he's gotten the depression. He brushes off his consort's romantic and affectionate overtures. Finally, the consort gives up, moves to a different bedroom. Then something happens. I haven't decided what. It may involve fairy tale magic or advice from an old friend. In any case, the king realizes he has given up on the joys of life. He begins to reconnect with others, but when he tries to reconnect with his consort, he's rebuffed. The consort no longer believes in the king's love. The king realizes he messed up massively. Then what? Some ideas I've been kicking around. Obligatory, I have a thought. Consort is actually some kind of fairy or was promised to a fairy prince or something like that. Consort will leave if king doesn't complete a series of tests or something. Consort gives king a series of impossible tasks to prove his love, something like, I'll only believe you love me if you bring me a golden songbird from the tree at the end of the world. That is not meant to be achieved at all. King arranges a massive multi-day birthday party for Consort to prove his love, but he invites the fairies or fails to invite the fairies. They show up and cause unspecified problems. King transforms in some way to try to seduce his consort in another form, so the consort will be open to engaging with him. Any more ideas? List of fun, miscellaneous fairy tale elements, characters that return a favor after the hero is kind to them, forced transformations, magical items with specific uses, rule of 3, characters who fail to complete a task before the hero succeeds, talking animals, various rags to riches elements, though that's harder to work with when the main characters are royalty already. So that is the question. That is a very interesting story premise, and we love a good romance. So here is where I would probably start approaching the solution to this problem. I think there's a very possibly interesting setup here, even with how they first met, and kind of instant love. And that probably was more so based on physical attraction than any kind of real deep abiding love. And that kind of love comes through knowing someone, time, knowing their flaws as well as the good points of them. And I think at the root of love is the willingness to sacrifice. And this, I think, is in any love, in marriage, with your children, with your best friends. At the root is willingness to put the other person ahead of yourself. And I don't mean this in an unhealthy way. It's very easy to take this in a crazy direction. So let's, use the benefit of the doubt here and say that it's a healthy relationship. People are emotionally healthy. In an emotionally healthy relationship, the willingness to not always put your own wants and needs ahead of the wants and needs of someone else. So imagine a relationship where both parties are willing to sacrifice their own gratification for the good of the other person. And that's a beautiful relationship, right? So I would probably root the thing that ultimately makes the consort believe that the king loves her be something in some kind of sacrifice. And that might have to be set up in the personality of the king and the consort initially. And so that would be kind of like setting up the gun, putting the gun in the drawer at the beginning of the story so that later on when the character finds it, it's not, a random out of nowhere, where did this convenient gun come from, right? And there could also be an element of their early relationship where, because they were both beautiful and they were in the throes of the honeymoon stage, and they're rich and they're royalty, and maybe they've got some magical stuff going on, like if she is actually a fairy princess or something like that, they don't really have any reason to not be totally happy and in love with each other, right? So this issue of war coming to the kingdom and them actually having something heavy to deal with, and her being thrown into ruling while the king goes off to war, that's a very interesting dynamic when he comes back, because now she's dealing with, a version of him that she had never seen before. Some of his flaws are coming out. He's, like you mentioned, depressed after having gone to war, whether it's just having seen so much death, whether they lost, or even if they won, what was required in order to make that happen. He's never experienced that before, right? And so she doesn't really know how to comfort him, and the ways that they would get through their squabbles before, if they ever had any, was through, very trite, basic stuff. And not that, physical relationship and all that kind of stuff is basic, but she just doesn't know how to handle him. Also, she's been ruling for however many years. Did she like it? Did she not like it? If it's something that she never expected to have to do, and maybe it's very stressful for her and very anxious, it makes her very anxious and things like that. Now he comes back and she's expecting to be able to release the reins of control back to him happily. But because of his depression, he is still unable to really fully take up his duties again. So that causes resentment. So he's not interested in engaging with her romantically. And maybe she thinks when he was away, did he involve himself with somebody else? There's all these questions. The room is full of questions and there are no answers, right? And he's not talking because he's not really, or if he does talk, because I really don't like when a conversation can solve a conflict and you just don't have the conversation. That's very annoying. It's irritating as a reader. So maybe it's not just that he won't talk, but they just can't see eye to eye. And so not only is he rebuffing her romantic advances, but he's not taking up the reins of the kingdom again because he has to heal. And so whatever the catalyst is that starts that healing, now she's in a place where she doesn't really trust him. Maybe she does or doesn't want to give up the power, the reins of power, now that he's kind of coming back to reality. And yeah, so I don't specifically know right now off the top of my head, because I could do this for like an hour and just like really dig deep into this story. And it's better and it's more fun and it's easier to do it when I'm actually talking to the person and we're bouncing ideas back and forth off of each other. But whatever you set up that can be a good, real sacrifice to reveal like, no, I really love you. And maybe they have to go on the journey of actually learning to love each other. Maybe they never really had that experience of what does real love look like. They've had attraction, they've had chemistry, they've had lust, and they've had, you know, all the physical fun stuff of being in love and all of that, but they haven't really gotten into what really makes love for real. You know, the best parts of being in love with someone once you get past the initial buzz of energy and excitement and attraction, and everything they do is just a revelation and you just love everything about them. When you get to know the real them, that's when love can really, I think, start to take root. So maybe they can go on that journey together. Maybe it's even like, maybe part of it is because it was such instant chemistry and instant love, maybe they never really went through a courtship. So maybe part of what he starts to try to do is court her. And that's one of the things that doesn't really work. So within the world of fairy tale tropes, and recognizable plot points and things like that, perhaps you can set up a place where a sacrifice on his part, and maybe on her part as well. Maybe she has to realize, do I really love him? Did I really love him? Do I want to love him? Maybe he has to realize that too. Maybe it wasn't really love that brought us together. Maybe they're about to lose the relationship for real. And they make the mutual decision to, through whatever issue happens, to, no, I really love this person, through the journey that they went on. Maybe it's something like, you know, evil fairies, the ones that he did or didn't invite to the birthday party, they crash the party, or they do come and maybe they throw the king and the consort into some sort of other realm of the fae or whatever. And now they have to kind of work together to get out of this, you know, and right before it, they were fighting, or he's like, you're never happy with anything that I do. How can I prove to you that I love you if, you know, nothing's ever good enough? And she has her rebuff, and then they're thrown into this, you know, crazy magical world that they have to figure out how to get out of. And through that journey, they realize they actually start to fall in love for real. And there's a sacrifice that's made. Doesn't have to be one of them dies or anything crazy. Like, he doesn't have to cut off a hand, unless you want that to be the thing, girl, you know? But that's what I would think. Root it in a sacrifice. Maybe force them together, force them to have to work together, force them to have to get to really know each other beyond just being beautiful, rich, and royal, you know? So yeah, that would be my response. What do you guys think? What do you think, bestie? How would you approach this issue? What do you think would be a good way for the king to show and prove his love in a way that his consort can believe? It doesn't have to be my answer. I could be totally wrong. Or I feel like there's a million different ways to tell a story and to solve a problem often. So I'm very interested to hear what your suggestions would be to this.